A few years ago, I bought a Harvest Moon game out of nostalgia. In less than 2 hours, I turned it off and never returned. In my youth, I had such fond memories of Harvest Moon 64, Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life, and Harvest Moon on Game Boy. I couldn't figure out why, but it just didn't hit the same as the original game. Heck, there was an entire GameCube era where gaming was just different. I just remember spending hundreds of hours raising chows in the Chow Garden on Sonic, or grinding to get the perfect one. In an era where I just couldn't Google how to do it without pouring through pages of long lists on a game FAQ. I remember I'd be counting down for holiday events in Animal Crossing, bragging about the room I built or cool furniture I found, but mostly I remember raising crops in A Wonderful Life. And it's the first game outside The Sims where I remember choosing a path for my character where they would get married, have a kid, grow up. The town felt huge to me. The cycle of day and night, having to cook food, eat, sleep, it's something I always looked back on so fondly. Yet, this new game that I tried wasn't that. What I didn't know when I bought this new game was that the Harvest Moon I knew lost the right to their name in America and Europe in 2012, which created a spin-off series where new low-quality farm sims are being made and just tagged with the Harvest Moon name. That obviously creates some confusion. And in 2014, the original branch of Harvest Moon came back to America and Europe under the name Story of Seasons, which explains my disappointment. Still, every few years I would load up my GameCube and throw in the disc for A Wonderful Life. And then last year I saw an ad. For Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, and I knew it would be a day one purchase for me. As soon as the game started, the music came on, and it's like a memory of a simpler time. Now, if you haven't tried this game yet and you're worried it's a one-for-one remake, fear not. If you think it's going to be a modern game with a billion things to do, you'll also be disappointed. If you want nostalgia, though, or just a really simple and charming farming game, I think this is it. Like most of these farming games, you inherit a farm. It's very basic and needs upgrades. You get a cow, you plant a few seeds, you also get a puppy. It's a good puppy. Seriously though, when did this opening become the staple for the farming sim genre? Your character packs up and moves from the big city to the farm for a quieter life, or to find themselves, or to complete someone else's dream. And how many people are just leaving farms to people in their wills who might not even want them? Isn't it impossible to basically turn a profit operating a small farm? I don't know. I feel like some of these games should add details to these stories, like you're in witness protection, or you're scared the government's going to destroy the electrical grid, and you start a farm to live off grid. Maybe a little variety to the backstory. This was the first farming sim I ever played, so I guess this is an unfair rant. I actually really do enjoy this game. So your life on the farm begins. There are 4 seasons. Each season lasts for 10 days, and each day lasts about 24 real-life minutes. About an hour in game equates to about a minute, not including time you spent in text chats or other things while you're conversing with other characters. And I do like how this is broken up. As a kid, I never thought about it because I would just play endlessly, but as an adult, it's nice to grab the Switch, throw it on, play through a day or two, and within 20, 40 minutes-ish, I can just move on, do something else. I feel like this is the same reason I'm drawn to games like Diablo 3, where I can grab my Switch while the kids go down for a nap, or I'm on a break at work, or I have 20 minutes here or there, I can knock out something real quick, and then move on. It's not like a big blockbuster title where I have to dedicate 2 to 3 hours to play one story continuously. While I have nothing against those games, it's just nice to have these games that can be segmented up. Now, this is one of those farming games that insists you must get married to one of the single locals by the end of your first year. The GameCube version that I played only had a male starting character and women to date. This is basically 2.0 of the game, and I've never played it. You can play as a boy, as a girl, and you can date men or women within the village. And this remake expands on that to make sure that it's not gender locked, and so you can choose any of the romances to play with your character. So the available women in this game are Celia, who's the one I almost always chose to marry in previous playthroughs, Lumina, who I don't think I've ever even talked to, Nami is the one I always wanted to choose but never did, and Molly, who I remember being named Muffy. and this was the only other one I would choose as a kid. So on this playthrough, I decided to mix it up and not choose Cecilia, which was honestly hard. With her cutscenes, I did remember why I always picked her. She gives real big shop girl vibes via You've Got Mail. She comes over to see you on the farm. She's the one who shares the most interest with your current occupation, and you have to go see her to buy seeds, so you're seeing her constantly. It is certainly the relationship that makes the most sense in this game. I also could not commit off the bat to marrying another character, so I did keep bringing her flowers. So I kept unlocking her heart events, or these little cutscenes, and every time a cutscene occurred, I was like, whew. You can also witness heart events that occur between other characters, so I ran into one between Nami and Gustafa. I think Nami hints that she was in an abusive relationship before she came to the valley, which feels darker than I remembered. Despite the Cecilia temptation, I mostly courted Lumina this go around. Also, why can't I court Flora the archaeologist? Like, that would be a good story. She comes to town in search of new relics and finds love with the farmer boy. I don't know, maybe when they make a 5th remake of this game on the next gen consoles 10 years from now, they'll add that. I'm just kidding. Alas, every day I would make my way up to Lumina, where she lives with her Aunt Romana and her butler Sebastian, in the elegant little villa on the western side of Forgotten Valley. She spends her afternoons practicing piano or hanging around the villa garden, seemingly living a rather secluded lifestyle. I brought her flowers every day. She seemed to like all kinds, but she would accept 2 different kinds of flowers, so it was pretty easy. I think we had a meet cute scene at some point where she ran into me in the street. Then one day I entered the villa to give her flowers, and all of a sudden it's me, Romana, and Rock listening to Lumina's piano practice session together. Also, why is Rock here? Is he my rival? Is he gonna take my girl? Romana points out that while Lumina's playing is spot on, she wishes her niece would be more interpretive. After Romana leaves, Lumina confesses that Romana has been giving her the same suggestion for a while now, which makes her piano playing challenging. She doesn't understand her aunt's play freely advice. The game gives me the option of telling her to just work harder or have some fun with it. Gee, she's literally practicing piano every single day for hours. I can't even get myself to go walk my poor dog every day, and she's slaying those keys with those fingers. I definitely picked the second option here. Lumina explains that she started learning piano from Aunt Romana when she was 3 years old. Romana would praise her if she played without making a mistake, but as time passed, Lumina felt pressured to play the piano because her skills were being compared to her mother's. Because of that expectation, Lumina was afraid to make mistakes or disappoint her aunt. Lumina thought Romana was trying to make her a replacement for her mom. Now that idea sounds ridiculous to her. Romana has been directing Lumina to play the piano more freely. Lumina feels better about this after talking to me and hopes to have more fun with the music. I mean, let's unpack that for a second. What I took away is that her parents must have died when she was 3 and she moved in with her grandmother, her mom's mom. She also spent part of her upbringing believing that her grandmother might be trying to raise her as a replacement for the daughter she lost. And some people say this game has no soul or depth, but that's a lot. But it's also making me feel better about this choice. I need to get her out of this house. Our next heart event, I bust into that bedroom to give her flowers like usual, and she's like, hey, want to hang out? My options are yes or no. I'm courting the dang woman. Of course I say yes. Lumina tells me that the books she's been reading are a collection of art drawn by an old friend of her aunt. She's always found their work fascinating. The pictures are always warm and comforting. So naturally, my choices are asking what the pictures are, or are they warm like a grilled sweet potato? I take the first response. Each picture has 2 or more people, like 2 boys, an older man and older woman, so on. Lumina can tell that the artist's feelings are clearly conveyed in their art. Her favorite is of a young woman playing piano, while an older woman watches. She's always been envious of the 2 subjects, so I get the choice of responding, because you want an older sibling, or because you want someone to play piano with. I take the second one, because you want someone to play piano with. Lumina confesses that since I've arrived, it feels like she's a new addition to her family. Spending time with me is a delight. If only I could play the piano with her, but that's impossible, as I have my farm to care for. This is the cutscene that did it for me. I was satisfied with my choices in this game. I had my blue feather from the gnomes, and I gave it to her. After some kidding from her grandmother, we got her blessing, but we're told we can't marry yet because Lumina is to be trained on married life, with Sebastian stating that it's no good for those who have cared for her for so long to let her go out in the world until they teach her how to take care of herself. We do get an engagement event at the cafe where we interact with Molly and Gavin for the first time as an engaged couple. Overall, the dating sim part is simple and it's about as fun as I remember it. I'm not playing Harvest Moon to have a super realistic dating experience. I'm here to run a farm with zero farming knowledge and turn a massive profit. I can 100% see why people with no nostalgia for this game will find it so empty though. You're forced to marry someone even if you do nothing but farm and ignore all dating options, so there really is no urgency to playing the marriage game. On top of that, the activities seem limited, and your daily chores of tending to crops, your animals, foraging for wild plants, going to the forest spirits who will gift you more recipes, these can all be accomplished very quickly. After you've done your daily tasks, you can go digging for artifacts, but there's only one item you need to find for each story year, and if I understand correctly, they're not even necessary to progress the game. It just gives you more information on the backstory of the valley. If you're someone who's never played before, I can see how this activity is straight up boring. I mean, compared to running dungeons in Stardew Valley or other farming sims, but there's something calming about it. I think that's really what ropes me into this game. It's calming, it's the music, it's the scenery, it's the simple nature of relationships, the adorable animals. Even fishing's calm here. I don't know if it's actually possible to fail at catching a fish. Yes, fishing at Animal Crossing is a similar minigame, but there were things you could fail at. There's also a checklist to complete. Without time manipulation, it could take a year or more if you missed a certain type of fish at any point in the game. Here, it's just catching fish. Make them into a fish dish, sell them, give them the gifts. There's no collection log to fill up, no museum to display them in. It's just a calming fishing game. But after years of games that push grinding events with built-in FOMO to rack up more profits, or pushing microtransactions to accelerate the speed of their crops growing, or the yield of the crop, it's nice to go back to a simpler time. Remember when this game first came out, there wasn't a lot of stuff to do in the GameCube era. There are improvements on the game though. First I'll note is I remember being able to go into a tool shed and then having to manage which tools I carried around. Now you just always have your best in slot tool automatically equipped. And you start with basic ones and can upgrade them to copper in year 1 for 1,000 gold each by buying them from Van. The hoe and the sickle and watering can can be upgraded to silver in year 2 in the summer for 10,000 gold each, and the gold variant in summer of year 3 for 50,000 gold. Finally, the blessed versions can be unlocked via requests on the bulletin board, which brings me to my favorite new addition. There is now a bulletin board in the middle of the town where you can take requests from villagers. These will grant rewards ranging from new outfits to the alarm clock. Some requests reward you with basic items, like seeds. These will have a limited time frame to complete, whereas the special requests have no time limit, and that's where the good rewards come in. I felt like these gave me another connection to the villagers, an ability to help them out, especially for those they don't run into every day. Other changes are smaller but nice, like the seed maker is just an item you can buy now, you don't need to befriend the scientist. The alarm clock is no longer a friendship reward but comes from a task on the bulletin board. There's a new camera function so you can take photos of the valley. A few characters have changed names, none threw me off more than Muffy becoming Molly, but the changes mostly make sense. Tartan changed to Vinny, Celia became Cecilia, Gladden became Gary. The next aspect of this game is raising your kid. At your wedding, your spouse asks you if you have a preference between a son and a daughter. The following year, you'll have whichever one you picked. Your child changes depending on who you marry. And it isn't just an aesthetic difference, your child receives traits from both parents, meaning they'll always have an inclination towards farming from you, but their second interest will be different depending on who you've married. From there, you play an active role in shaping your child's future by doing things like interacting with them to build a relationship, giving them gifts pertaining to different interests, and more. Your child grows up as the years pass, and you'll watch them from a sweet baby into a fully independent young adult. The other major changes to these games are the prices. The processing room, which turns milk into butter and cheese, the main way to make money in this game, used to cost 30,000 gold, which you could earn within the first year if you played smartly. Now it costs 150,000 gold, and takes almost 2 years in-game to make that much. Plus, it'll take a lot longer to earn that money back. And if we want to upgrade the barn for more cows, it's another 120,000 gold. This might annoy people, but I think it helps give the game a little bit of longevity, so you literally can't cheese your way to riches in year 1. Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life has the charm of the original while bringing enough features up to date that it's not a total chore to play. The game's probably 30 to 40 hours long, depending on how you play through a full run. Now, fans of the later farming / life sims will find this game slow, and honestly, they might find it dull. And I get that, but this is not a modern farming sim. And for me, I just can't let go of the nostalgia. For me, I'll be in Forgotten Valley for the next few weeks. And once I complete this initial run, much like a decade ago, I do fully intend to find myself coming back to this game once every few months to do nothing else than play for an hour. Something about it when the music starts. And you start walking through Forgotten Valley, it just reminds me the peace of being a child, I guess. Everyone's got a game like that. This one's gotta be mine.